The Silent Return. The Orion monitoring station had been tracking deep space anomalies for decades, but nothing had prepared Lieutenant Marcus Chen for what his screens showed that cold November morning. A massive spatial distortion was forming just beyond Saturn's rings, sending his instruments into a frenzy of alerts and warnings. "Commander, you need to see this," Marcus called out, his voice barely concealing his shock. The space-time readings were off the charts, indicating something massive was about to emerge from what appeared to be a self-generated wormhole. Commander Jessica Ortiz rushed to his station, her coffee forgotten on her desk. As she leaned over Marcus's shoulder, her eyes widened at the data streaming across multiple screens. "That's impossible," she whispered. "Nothing that size should be able to create its own transit point." The distortion grew, reality itself seeming to bend and warp around a central point. Then, with a flash of impossible colors that hurt their eyes to look at directly, a ship emerged. But this was no ordinary vessel. The Prometheus had been humanity's pride when it launched 10 years ago. A sleek exploration vessel designed for deep space missions, it had carried Earth's best and brightest on a mission to chart the far reaches of the galaxy. When it vanished without a trace beyond the Kuiper Belt, it had been mourned as humanity's greatest loss. What emerged from the distortion barely resembled the ship that had left. The Prometheus was now at least 3 times its original size, its hull a flowing mixture of organic curves and crystalline structures that seemed to shift and change as they watched. Bioluminescent patterns pulsed along its surface like the heartbeat of some cosmic creature. Is that really the Prometheus?" Marcus asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Before Commander Ortiz could respond, their communication array sparked to life. A transmission was coming through on frequencies that shouldn't exist, using encryption protocols that were theoretically impossible. "Earth Command, this is Captain Alina Reeves of the starship Prometheus. We have returned, and we bring grave news. Request immediate counsel with planetary leadership. Time is not our ally." The voice was undeniably human, but there was something else there too. Harmonics that resonated in ways that made their teeth ache and their vision blur slightly. Within hours, the Situation Room at Earth Command was packed with military leaders, scientists, and politicians. The massive view screen showed the transformed Prometheus holding position near Jupiter, its alien modifications clear even at this distance. Admiral Nathan Cross, Supreme Commander of Earth's Defense Forces, stood rigid as the secure channel opened. When Captain Alina Reeves appeared on screen, a collective gasp echoed through the room. Alina Reeves had aged, but not in the way 10 years should have aged her. Her eyes glowed with an inner light, circuits of what appeared to be living crystal traced patterns beneath her skin, and her movements had a fluid grace that seemed to defy normal human limitations. "Captain Reeves," Admiral Cross began, struggling to maintain his composure. "Your ship, your crew, what happened to you?" Alina's expression was grave. "We fell through a dimensional rift, Admiral. We found ourselves in a place between realities, where the laws of physics are more like suggestions. We weren't alone there. We encountered beings, refugees from countless dead civilizations. They changed us, helped us evolve, because they needed us to survive. Because something is coming." She gestured, and the view screen split to show images that defied comprehension. A darkness that moved with purpose, consuming entire star systems, not destroying them, but unmaking them, as if they had never existed. "We call it the Void Devourer," Alina continued. "It's not a creature, not a force of nature. It's something else entirely. It feeds on reality itself, erasing civilizations from existence. It's been moving through the galaxy in a pattern we finally decoded. Earth is next. You have less than 6 months." The room erupted into chaos. Some demanded proof. Others called for immediate military action, while a few suggested this was all an elaborate deception. Alina raised her hand, and suddenly every screen in the room displayed the same image, a star map showing the path of destruction, with Earth squarely in its trajectory. "We didn't come back just to warn you," Elena said, her voice cutting through the panic. "We came back to fight. The Prometheus isn't just a ship anymore. It's a weapon designed specifically to combat this threat. But we need Earth's resources, its people, its determination. We need humanity to unite like never before." Dr. Sarah Martinez, Earth's leading xenobiologist, stepped forward. "Captain, you mentioned evolution. What exactly happened to you and your crew?" Elena smiled, but it was a sad smile. "We merged with technology older than our galaxy. It saved us, made us stronger, faster, more resilient. But it came at a cost. We're still human at our core, but we're also something more now. Something that can face the devourer and survive." As if to demonstrate, Elena's form shifted slightly, her skin taking on a crystalline quality before returning to normal. "The process is irreversible, but voluntary. We won't force this change on anyone. But understand this, conventional weapons won't work against what's coming. We need to evolve, or we'll be erased from existence." Over the next week, delegations from every nation visited the Prometheus. Scientists marveled at technology that seemed to blend organic and inorganic matter seamlessly. Military strategists studied weapon systems that manipulated fundamental forces, and slowly the reality of the threat began to sink in. The Prometheus crew demonstrated their capabilities in controlled tests. They could manipulate gravity, generate shields that operated on quantum principles, and their weapon systems created controlled singularities that could tear apart the fabric of space-time itself. But it was the human element that convinced the doubters. Despite their transformations, the crew retained their humanity, their hopes, fears, and determination. They laughed, they cried, they showed compassion and courage. They were still undeniably human, just evolved for a greater purpose. As the first month passed, Earth began to mobilize. Factories were retooled to produce materials based on Prometheus specifications. Volunteers lined up to undergo the transformation process, knowing it meant leaving their old lives behind. The planet's divided nations found common purpose in the face of extinction. Elena stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, looking out at Earth. Her enhanced senses could feel the determination rising from the planet below. Humanity was doing what it did best: adapting, fighting, refusing to go quietly into the night. Her first officer, Commander David Walsh, approached. His transformation was different from hers, manifesting as geometric patterns that flowed across his skin like living equations. "The first wave of volunteers is ready for integration," he reported. "The fleet modifications are proceeding ahead of schedule. Humanity is responding even better than we hoped." Elena nodded. "They always do when their backs are against the wall. That's what makes us unique in the galaxy. Other species accept their fate or flee. Humans, we fight. We adapt. We find a way." She turned to face her crew, men and women who had journeyed with her through dimensions of impossibility and returned changed but unbroken. "Prepare for the next phase," she ordered. "It's time to show them what the Prometheus can really do. It's time to prepare for war." As the transformed ship began to glow with power that defied conventional understanding, Earth's defenders watched in awe. The Prometheus was no longer just a vessel. It was hope incarnate, a testament to human ingenuity and determination. The Void Devourer was coming, but humanity would be ready. They had evolved, adapted, and united. And when the darkness came to consume them, it would find that humans don't just survive. They triumph. The forge of evolution. Captain Elena Reeves closed her eyes, letting the memories of those lost 10 years flood back. The day the Prometheus had encountered the anomaly seemed like yesterday, yet lifetimes ago. They had been mapping the outer reaches of the Kuiper Belt when their sensors detected an impossible energy signature. What appeared to be a routine investigation turned into a journey beyond imagination when their ship was pulled through a tear in spacetime itself. "Captain, we're losing structural integrity," Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chen had shouted as the Prometheus was dragged into the swirling vortex. The ship's hull groaned under forces that shouldn't exist, reality bending around them like melted glass. When they emerged, they found themselves in a realm where the laws of physics were fluid, where thought could shape matter, and where time flowed in directions humans had no words to describe. The Prometheus hung suspended in a vast expanse, filled with impossible geometries and colors that existed beyond the visible spectrum. They weren't alone. Dozens of ships from various civilizations drifted in this space between spaces, some so alien their very existence hurt to contemplate. But all shared one thing in common. They were refugees, survivors of worlds consumed by the void devourer. The first to make contact was the Asheran, beings of pure energy contained within crystalline matrices. Through a form of communication that transcended language, they shared their story. The void devourer had consumed their reality, but a few had escaped to this dimensional refuge. "You are young," the Asheran consciousness had conveyed to Elena. "Your species has potential, but as you are, you cannot survive what comes. You must evolve, or you will cease to exist." The transformation process was offered as a choice. Each crew member had to decide whether to remain human or become something more. Dr. James Morrison, the ship's chief medical officer, was the first to volunteer. "If this is what it takes to save Earth, to save humanity, then I'll do it," he had said, stepping into the transformation chamber the Asheran had created. Elena watched as James was enveloped in a cocoon of living light. Inside, his DNA was rewritten. His consciousness expanded, his very atoms restructured to exist partially outside normal spacetime. When he emerged 3 days later, he was still James, but also something greater. One by one, the crew made their choice. Some hesitated, some embraced the change eagerly, but all ultimately accepted their new reality. Elena was the last to transform, needing to be certain her crew would retain their humanity through the process. The pain was indescribable, every cell in her body simultaneously dying and being reborn. But with the pain came understanding, knowledge of technologies beyond human comprehension, awareness of dimensions beyond the physical, and most importantly, insight into the nature of their enemy. The void devourer wasn't just a destroyer, it was entropy incarnate, a force that sought to return all reality to primordial nothingness. It couldn't be fought with conventional weapons because it existed partially outside normal spacetime. Only beings who could operate on multiple dimensional levels could hope to combat it. In the timeless realm, the Prometheus crew learned from their alien allies. The ship itself was rebuilt, merged with technologies from a dozen dead civilizations. Its hull became a living alloy that could repair itself and adapt to threats. Its engines could fold space, allowing instantaneous travel across vast distances. Its weapons could strike at the fundamental forces that held reality together. But the most important lesson was about unity. The Asheran showed them records of civilizations that had fallen because they couldn't set aside their differences. Only species that united every resource, every mind, every spark of creativity had even a chance of survival. Now, back in normal space, Elena worked tirelessly to forge that same unity on Earth. The planet's response had exceeded her expectations. Within months, orbital shipyards were constructing vessels based on Prometheus designs. Volunteers from every nation underwent the transformation process, creating a new corps of evolved humans. The United Earth Fleet grew daily. Traditional warships were retrofitted with hybrid technology. New vessels, grown as much as built, took shape in zero-gravity construction zones. Each incorporated lessons learned from the refugee civilizations in the dimensional refuge. Not everyone embraced the changes. Some religious groups declared the transformations blasphemous. Certain political factions tried to seize control of the new technologies for their own purposes, but the majority of humanity recognized the stakes and put aside old divisions. 3 months after Prometheus's return, Elena addressed the United Nations via quantum-entangled communication, her image appearing simultaneously in every assembly hall, military command center, and public square on Earth. "Citizens of Earth," she began, her voice carrying the harmonic resonance of her evolved state. We stand at a crossroads not just for our species, but for all life in our galaxy. The Void Devourer approaches, and with it comes the potential end of everything we know and love. She gestured, and holographic displays showed the growing fleet, the transformed volunteers, the unified effort of a species facing extinction. But we are not helpless. We have evolved. We have united. We have taken the best of what a dozen civilizations offered and made it our own. When the Devourer arrives, it will not find easy prey. It will find humanity, stubborn, adaptable, and absolutely refusing to go quietly into oblivion. The response was electric. Across the planet, recruitment centers were overwhelmed with volunteers. Scientists worked around the clock to understand and improve upon the hybrid technologies. Artists and philosophers explored what it meant to be human in this new age of evolution. In the depths of space, early warning sensors based on HFY technology detected the first signs of the Devourer's approach. It would arrive in less than 3 months, giving humanity precious little time to complete their preparations. Alina stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, now the flagship of Earth's evolved fleet. Around her, displays showed the gathering armada, hundreds of ships representing humanity's determination to survive. Her crew, transformed but still deeply human, worked with perfect synchronization, their enhanced abilities allowing them to operate the ship's advanced systems as naturally as breathing. Commander Walsh approached, his geometric patterns pulsing with data streams. All fleet elements report ready, Captain. The dimensional anchors are in place around the solar system. If the Devourer tries to phase shift, we'll be able to track it. Elena nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility for not just her crew, but for all of humanity. And the evacuation ships, hidden in pocket dimensions as planned. If we fail, at least some of humanity will survive to fight another day. She touched the command console, feeling the ship respond to her thoughts. The Prometheus was more than a vessel now. It was a living extension of her will, just as she was an extension of humanity's determination to survive. Signal all ships, she ordered. Begin final integration protocols. When the Devourer arrives, we hit it with everything we have. No holding back, no hesitation. This is for Earth, for humanity, for every civilization that fell before us. As the fleet moved into formation, Alina felt a moment of perfect clarity. Humanity had always been at its best when challenged, always found ways to adapt and overcome. Now, evolved and united, they would face their greatest challenge yet. The Void Devourer was coming, but it would learn what countless aggressors throughout human history had discovered. Humans don't just fight to survive, they fight to win. And sometimes, in the process of fighting, they become something greater than they ever imagined possible. The final stand. The Void Devourer announced its arrival not with sound or light, but with absence. Stars began to wink out along the edge of the solar system, not destroyed but unmade, as if they had never existed. Reality itself seemed to recoil from the entity's approach. On the bridge of the Prometheus, Alina felt the disturbance in the fabric of space-time. Her evolved senses, attuned to dimensions beyond normal perception, detected the Devourer's true nature, a wound in reality, a hunger that could never be satisfied. All ships, this is Prometheus Actual, she broadcast across the quantum network. Target incoming. Remember your training. We fight not just for Earth, but for existence itself. The evolved fleet spread out in a formation that would have seemed random to conventional tacticians, but followed patterns derived from higher dimensional mathematics. Each ship was positioned to maximize the effectiveness of their reality-anchoring weapons. The first visual confirmation came from the outer sensor arrays. The Devourer appeared as a sphere of absolute darkness, so black it seemed to drink in the light around it. But through their enhanced perception, the evolved humans could see its true form, a writhing mass of unreality, tentacles of void reaching across dimensions to consume everything they touched. Conventional fleet maintained secondary perimeter. Admiral Cross ordered from his command ship. Though not a vault himself, Cross commanded the traditional forces with unwavering determination. "You're our last line if the primary assault fails." Elena initiated the first phase of their battle plan. Dimensional anchors. Fire. Beams of concentrated reality shot from the evolved ships, creating a web of stable space-time around the Devourer. The entity recoiled, its form distorting as it encountered forces that prevented it from simply phasing through normal space. "It's working," Commander Walsh reported. "We forced it to maintain coherence in our dimension." But the Devourer adapted quickly. Tendrils of void lashed out, each one capable of unmaking entire ships. The evolved fleet responded with weapons that operated on fundamental forces, creating localized bubbles of altered physics where the Devourer's powers were neutralized. The battle raged across multiple dimensions simultaneously. To observers in normal space, ships seemed to flicker in and out of existence, while reality itself bent and warped around the combatants. The evolved humans fought with perfect coordination, their enhanced minds linked through quantum entanglement. But the Devourer was ancient and powerful. For every tendril they severed, two more appeared. Ships began to fall, not destroyed but erased from existence. The conventional fleet watched in horror as vessels simply ceased to be, leaving no debris, no energy signatures, nothing. "We're losing containment on sectors 5 through 7, Walsh reported, his geometric patterns flashing urgent warnings. "If it breaks through, it'll have a direct path to Earth." Elena knew they needed to change tactics. The defensive approach wasn't working. They needed to go on the offensive. Drawing on knowledge gained from the Asheran, she formulated a desperate plan. "All ships, prepare for quantum surge," she ordered. "We're going to hit it with everything at once. Channel all power to the reality warpers." The evolved fleet began to glow with impossible energies as they prepared for a coordinated assault. Each ship became a focal point for forces that could reshape the fundamental structure of space-time. "Captain," Dr. Morrison called from his station, "if we do this, we might not survive the feedback. Our evolved forms can only handle so much." "I know," Elena replied grimly. "But if we don't stop it here, there won't be anything left to survive for." At her command, the fleet unleashed their assault. Beams of pure reality struck the Devourer from every angle, each one carrying the combined will and determination of humanity. The entity writhed in what might have been pain, its form destabilizing as it encountered forces it couldn't simply unmake. The feedback hit the evolved humans hard. Elena felt her transformed body strain under energies that threatened to tear her apart at the molecular level. Around her, crew members collapsed as their enhanced forms reached their limits. But they held on, pouring everything they had into the assault. And slowly, impossibly, the Devourer began to change. Its perfect darkness developed cracks of light, fissures of reality breaking through its void form. "It's working," someone shouted. "We're actually hurting it." Elena pushed harder, feeling her consciousness expand beyond her physical form. She became one with the Prometheus, with the fleet, with the very fabric of space-time they were fighting to preserve. In that moment of transcendence, she understood the true nature of their enemy. The Devourer wasn't evil. It was a universal constant, a force of entropy as natural as gravity. But like any force, it could be opposed, redirected, contained. They couldn't destroy it, but they could banish it. "All ships, new directive," she broadcast, her voice carrying across dimensions. "We're not trying to destroy it. We're going to seal it away. Focus on creating a dimensional prison." The evolved fleet shifted their attack, using their reality-warping weapons to fold space-time around the Devourer. Layer after layer of dimensional barriers formed, each one designed to contain the entity's void nature. The Devourer fought back with increasing desperation, but humanity's determination proved stronger. As the prison took shape, the entity's influence on normal space began to wane. Stars that had been unmade flickered back into existence, reality reasserting itself. With a final surge of coordinated will, the evolved fleet completed the dimensional prison. The Devourer, trapped in a pocket of folded spacetime, could no longer affect the normal universe. Its hunger remained, but it was contained, sealed away where it could threaten no more civilizations. The cost had been high. Nearly a third of the evolved fleet had been lost, their crews erased or burned out by the energies they channeled. Alina herself could barely maintain consciousness, her transformed body pushed beyond its limits. But they had won. Humanity had faced extinction and emerged victorious. In the aftermath, as rescue ships collected survivors and reality stabilized, Alina received a transmission from the dimensional refuge where they'd first evolved. The Asheran and other refugee species were emerging, drawn by humanity's victory. "You have done what we thought impossible," the Asheran consciousness conveyed. "You have shown that evolution is not just about survival, but about growth, determination, and unity. The galaxy has a new protector." Earth celebrated, but Alina knew their work was just beginning. Humanity had evolved not just to save themselves, but to take their place as guardians of reality itself. The technologies and abilities they developed would be used to help other species, to prevent future threats, and to explore the vast mysteries of the universe. Standing on the bridge of the Prometheus, looking out at a galaxy saved from oblivion, Alina smiled. Humanity had always dreamed of reaching the stars. Now, evolved and united, they would protect them. "Captain," Walsh said, approaching with a data pad, "we're receiving distress signals from 3 different sectors. Seems word of our victory has spread. Species are asking for our help." Alina straightened, feeling strength return to her transformed body. "Then let's not keep them waiting. Plot a course to the nearest signal. It's time to show the galaxy what humanity can do." As the Prometheus and its evolved fleet turned toward new adventures, Earth entered a golden age. The transformation process became voluntary but widespread, creating a species that existed both in normal space and beyond it. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and emerged not just victorious, but transformed into something greater. They had learned that evolution wasn't just about survival. It was about becoming what the universe needed you to be. And in their darkest hour, humanity had become exactly that: protectors, explorers, and a beacon of hope for all species facing the darkness. The Void Devourer remained sealed away, a reminder of what they'd overcome. But humanity looked forward, not back, ready to face whatever challenges the universe might hold. They had evolved, they had united, and they had proven that sometimes the greatest strength comes not from what you are, but from what you choose to become. The stars beckoned, and humanity answered, forever changed, but forever human at their core. The galaxy would never be the same.